in hopes to support some local eateries, courtesy of our sponsors. Speaking of our sponsors, I'd like to thank them right now for partnering with us for this great event. And I'm going to just speak real quickly on those. We've got PCI. Paul, do you have anything you want to say? Hello?
I don't know that he popped on, but his contact info is here, and we'll send these slides out to everyone after as well in case you would like to contact them.
Perfect. We've got Keith.
I'm here, I was muted, but it's all good.
We'll get your info out there, Paul.
Don't even worry about it. It's all good. We're here for the speaker.
We've got Keith from Preferred Paving. I know I saw him for a second, but like I said, we'll get these slides out to everybody. Who's next? We've got Chadwick Park West. Winby is Scottney Brown. I saw Todd on here also.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Restoration Management Company. Jacqueline, I didn't see her, but I know she's here. Here she is.
Hi.
Gorgeous as always.
Thank you.
Adco South Roofing and Waterproofing, Ed. And then Rich with Dedicated Transportation Services. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. It's because of you guys we were able to have this amazing event and also put together our awesome stress kits. We hope everyone got an opportunity to pick it up. So thank you very much. Now for the main event, I'd like to introduce our speaker. Devin Burke helps high achievers wake up with more peace, power, and presence. He is an author, speaker, health and life coach, and founder of Sleep Science Academy. He was named one of the top 25 health coaches in America and has studied innovative, holistic coaching methods from some of the world's top health and human performance experts for over a decade. So I'll hand the floor over.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. And before we jump into the content, I just want to ask a couple questions. Hopefully everyone came out very stressed for this presentation so you can actually feel, by the end of the presentation, the goal is not only just to give you guys tools, but I want you actually to experience, this is going to be more of an experiential workshop. So a couple ground rules, how you can get the most out of this presentation. Don't just listen. If I ask a question, if there's an exercise, come at this from an interactive standpoint. Be engaged, be present, because literally what I'm about to share with you can not only change your life, but the lives of your employees, your family. It's amazing. And it's simple. And so we're going to go through and I'm going to give you guys some tools that will literally in the moment help you start to transform the stress, some of the stress that you're not even aware of. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let me just start my screen here. Give me a second. Okay. So can everyone see my screen here? Yes? Okay, we're getting thumbs up. Awesome. So how many people have felt like this over the last couple of months? Raise your hand. So not only do we normally have a certain level of stress, or what I call your stress blueprint, which we're going to go through and uncover today, but now we have a whole new layer of stress. We have COVID. So not only, life is stressful enough dealing with the business, the employees, dealing with life, the family. Now we have a whole nother level of stress. And I want to start off by sharing this quote by the Dalai Lama. He says, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, the Dalai Lama replied, man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. Now, that's a powerful quote by a very wise man. And honestly, that is the state that most of us are caught up in. We're caught up in, trying to make money. We're caught up in trying to handle life, right? We're trying to manage things and juggling a lot of balls. But most of us are living in the past or the future. And really, to become a master of stress, which I'm going to share with you how to do on today's workshop, we need to start to get connected to the present. So, so important. So stress is an inescapable part of the human condition. And it either can improve our health, our energy, our relationships, our careers and lives, or it can end them. And the thing about stress is, it's not all negative. Not all stress is negative. And it's important to make a distinction here. But stress can be defined as our body's or mind's response to any demand, real or imagined, positive or negative. I'm going to say that one more time. Stress can be defined as our body's or mind's response to any demand, real or imagined, positive or negative. Now, notice on this slide, there are two words that are in bold and red: imagined and negative. So most of the stress that we experience today actually happens in our minds. And like I was saying, not all stress is bad. So some stress is actually good. So we call this type of stress complementary stress or eustress. And this stress is what allows us to perform. This is the type of stress that gets us up in the morning. This is the type of stress that allows us to excel in life. But what happens is we hit what I call a stress threshold. Now, a lot of people are well beyond the stress threshold with what's going on in the world. And then what happens is we start to experience what's called distress. Now, distress or uncomplimentary stress is when a person continuously faces challenge after challenge without relief or relaxation. And then it becomes chronic stress. And so I like to have the analogy of stress is kind of like, there's a switch or like a gearbox. And most of us are in such high gear all the time because we're trying to get it all done that we forgot how to downshift. We forgot how to turn off that switch. And as a result, we start to experience sensations in our body that are unpleasant. We start to experience anxiety. We start to experience suffering. So chronic stress, it's often perceived as normal. And it's a constant low level stress, and it's a silent killer. Honestly, when you don't deal with stress, it creeps up on you. Stress is the root of all disease. And it's been estimated that 75 to 90% of all doctor's visits are for stress-related complaints and ailments. 75 to 90%. It literally is at the root of all disease. It's at the root of so much suffering that's not really necessary when you learn to understand it. And the World Health Organization has actually now labeled burnout as a medically recognized syndrome. So this might sound familiar to some of you. Feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, having a hard time getting through the day, having to rely on caffeine and coffee just to get you through the day. Increased mental distance from your job, or feeling, negative, or, just feeling not positive about the things that you're doing in your workplace. And as a result, not having or being as effective and efficient as you know that you could be. Does anyone raise your hand if anyone has experienced any of these types of symptoms with their job? Yeah, I think we all have at some point, right? So we know that chronic stress is a killer and a thief of joy. I'm going to just keep nailing this home. We're going to get into some really tactical stuff, but I just want to impress upon you that literally stress is at the root of so many of our problems. And when we're stressed, we're afraid, we're agitated, we're frustrated. We feel constriction in our mind and our body. We feel cranky, exhausted, irritated, irritable, overwhelmed, out of control, spent, unclear, right? Hopeless, tired, tense, tight, negative, pressured, powerless, and pooped. So these are some descriptive words around what it feels like to be stressed versus when we're not stressed. When we learn how to turn off that stress switch, when we can shift back into relaxation and we have the tools to do so, we feel energized, creative, joyful, hopeful, happy, positive, powerful, productive, passionate, in control, and ready to rock and roll. So how many people here, raise your hand if you would like to be less stressed? Put a 1 in the comments if you'd like to be less stressed, if you'd like to be more energized, more joyful, more productive, more powerful, passionate. Put a 1 in the message box. I want to see lots of 1s. Let's go. Let me see them. So stress not only affects us physically, it affects our mind. How many times throughout the day when we get a stressful event, we get a phone call that we don't want, or something happens in the business, or something with a vendor or an employee or someone we're trying to work with, and all of a sudden your mind just seems to go blank. Has anyone experienced this? Raise your hand. Where all of a sudden you're thinking about something, and all of a sudden it's like, boom. Sometimes maybe it feels like all the blood runs out of your body. If that phone call was someone in your family sick, someone that you care about sick, or someone is going through a really challenging time, we physically feel stress, and it affects our ability to perform. It affects our ability to show up. So as I mentioned, the main form of stress that we experience today is not that we're getting chased by tigers and we're having to survive from physical threats. It's mostly in our thinking and our thoughts. And our thoughts create our feelings. So what happens is we have a thought. Something happens in our life, right? And that creates a feeling in our body. And we can think of feelings as just energy in the body. And we're always having feelings based off of how we're thinking, right? So our focus equals feelings. So where energy goes, attention flows. So what we focus on throughout the day dictates how we feel, whether we feel pooped or whether we feel in control, whether we feel agitated or whether we feel ready to rock and roll and take it on, right? It's where we focus. So we have a set of beliefs, right? And I'm just going to lay out some definitions here. You might want to take some notes on this. But a belief is a pattern of thinking. Really important distinction. It's an acceptance that a statement is true. A belief is acceptance that a statement is true. It's a pattern of thinking. And then we have thoughts. The voice in our head that's constantly going all day long. Whether we're aware of it or not, that voice is going. And then we have feelings. This is sensations that are created in our body from our thoughts. And then we have actions. So based off of how we feel dictates what we do. Those actions, what we do or what we don't do, it's all based off of feeling, which based off of our thinking, which based off the beliefs about ourselves, the beliefs about what's going on in the world, the beliefs about our ability to handle stress, the beliefs about our ability to show up and perform certain tasks, which all this then dictates our results, our outer experience or our reality. So I'm sure many of you have heard the saying, your thoughts create your reality. It's true. This is literally how our thinking creates our reality. So a thought, just to nail this home, a thought, I never have enough time. How many people here ever have this thought? Raise your hand. never have enough time to get things done. It feels like you're always you're never caught up. There's always your inbox keeps getting mail. It's like, man, I never can get enough done. That's a thought, right? Which then creates a feeling. Maybe that feeling is overwhelm. Maybe it's frustration. Maybe it's agitation, right? That is stress in our bodies, in our mind-body system. And then what happens is we create a story or a meaning about the feeling and the thought. Maybe that story for you is my life's out of control, or I suck at time management, or I'll never get this done, right? So then we create a story around that, which then creates our experience. So how many people here, raise your hand, have experienced insomnia over the last couple of months, not being able to either get asleep or stay asleep, right? Or maybe waking up in the middle of the night and having a racing heart and just thinking, oh my God, like, am I going to be able to get through this whole COVID thing? Am I going to be able to, manage what's going on in my life, right? How many people have had this experience, right? So again, thinking equals results. So we have to start to explore how we're thinking. And we're going to do that in detail in today's workshop. So I hope you guys are ready. So again, the primary cause of stress stems from our thoughts. Therefore, thinking is the primary cause of stress. Is this making sense? Are you guys with me? Put a 1 in the message box, a 1 if you're with me, if this is making sense. Now again, we're just laying the foundation here. Just laying the foundation. Okay, I'm seeing some 1s. So it's time to face what I call the facts. All right, so facing facts is an essential step towards mastering stress. So this step is all about making the unconscious conscious. And it does take practice because we are all highly trained at confusing stories and facts. This is like game changing when you get this. So a little scenario here. Fact, COVID happened, right? That's a fact. We're experiencing COVID. Story, this is ruining my life and business. Now, stories might not be conscious, but it's important to try to dig up the unconscious to be able to see it. Fact, I woke up 3 times last night. Story, tomorrow's going to be terrible. I'm not going to show up in this presentation. I'm not going to be able to deal with fill in the blank. Fact, I'm experiencing a racing mind. I'm experiencing overwhelm. Story, I'm going to have to deal with this the rest of my life. Fact, I'm now working from home. Story, I'm going to be less productive. I am less productive because I'm working from home. Fact, I'm experiencing more stress. Story, I can't handle any more stress. I'm at my limit. I'm going to lose it. So are you guys seeing the difference between facts and stories? Raise your hand. Let me know. Is this making sense? Okay, so what I want you guys to do right now, just to solidify this, is I want you to come up with some facts and some stories. So I'm going to give you guys 1 minute. And I want you to write out what are some facts right now that you're currently experiencing in your life, and then what are the stories around those facts? Again, what are the facts? What is the story, the thinking around the facts? So I'm gonna give you guys, we'll give you guys 2 minutes and just see if you could start to distinguish between the facts and the stories. So go ahead. And it doesn't have to be, keep it simple. This is something that you're going to want to continue to explore and focus on. doesn't have to be this big thing, but literally just start to write down, okay, what are the facts? And then what is the story around the facts? Okay, does anyone want to be brave and share a fact and then their story around the fact? Maybe Olivia can help me with this. If you see somebody, if you want to share and be brave, just unmute yourself.
I'll do it.
All right, Megan. Yeah, you had some. Okay, all right.
I don't know if I did it right, but obviously you kind of mentioned a lot of them on your grid below. But I came up with life is hard right now. And I think my story would be I can't see my family, I can't see my friends, and that's a big struggle.
Okay, so the fact is life is hard right now. That's actually a story.
Okay, see.
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's okay. And I'm glad. Let's work on that. What is the fact that is creating life is so hard right now?
COVID.
Okay. So COVID would be the fact, and then the story, you actually have two stories. Probably we all have multiple stories around facts, by the way. Right? So but you identified two stories. Is this making sense?
I'm an overachiever, clearly. So I'm stressed.
No, well, you're brave as well, because to share that in front of, 50 people or however many people are on here now, takes some guts. So yeah, so facts, this is where it gets challenging. This takes practice, because oftentimes we confuse our stories for facts. And if you confuse your stories for facts, what happens? You can't change your stories.
Ooh.
Does that make sense?
That does. Thank you.
So really trying to get, so a fact is something that, let me give you another example. Fact, this water bottle is black. Story, I need this water bottle because if I don't have it, I'm going to be dehydrated all day. Do you see?
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So really start to practice and get your thinking as to what's a fact and what's a story. Game changer. And I'm going to share with you why in just a moment.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Okay, so neurosculpting thoughts. Fancy language here. Now we're getting into some tactical stuff, guys. Step 1, notice that you moved into a suffering state. So notice that you are stressed. Now, a lot of guys have a hard time admitting that they're stressed. And so the first step is admitting, okay, I'm feeling stress. Notice that you're moving into a suffering or a stress state. Resistance, negativity. How do you know that you're in a suffering state? It doesn't feel good. You feel overwhelmed. You feel frustrated. You feel tired. You feel foggy, right? All you have to do is just notice, okay, right now, I don't feel good. I'm not in a good state. Step 2, become aware of the thinking that is taking place. Step 2 is really important. And this is where the distinction between facts and stories is like game changing, because you have to start to become aware of the thinking that is creating the feeling. And oftentimes the thinking, we're not thinking in facts, we're thinking in stories. Are you guys following? Yes? Is this making sense? Okay, awesome. Step 3, see the thinking as unintelligent. Now, all that means is it's not moving you towards what you want or how you want to feel. Don't make it wrong. Don't make it wrong. Just see it as unintelligent. 3 steps. And this is you're probably going to want to write these down as well. Again, notice you moved into a suffering state. 2, become aware of the thinking, the story. 3, see it as unintelligent, not moving towards what you want or how you want to feel. Okay? So now we're going to identify what your stress blueprint is. Okay. Stress blueprints, really important. We all have one. Our stress blueprint is simply how we deal with stress, right? It's a preset program of how we handle stress, which includes a combination of beliefs, right? We talked about beliefs at the top there, thoughts, feelings, and actions in relation to real or perceived stress. Now, remember what I said in the beginning of this workshop. Most of the stress that we experience actually is perceived. Most of the stress we experience actually is perceived. So you can think of your mind almost like a computer. And we have these preset programs that we were taught from our parents, from society, from TV shows, from church, from, you know, movies. We picked up all this stuff, right? And that's how we handle stress. It's all this thinking. And most of us, we were taught how to manage stress by those who didn't know how to manage their own. We were taught how to manage stress by those who didn't know how to manage their own. And this is how most of us manage stress. Again, no judgment. We're just going to be super honest with yourself right now. If any of this resonates with you, okay? The first way that most of us were taught to manage our stress was lash out. In anger and frustration, be short with your kid or your spouse. This shows up as road rage, right? Nobody on this call ever has road rage, right? It shows up as, it shows up as anger. And what this results in is a loss of relationships. A loss of relationships. The second way we were taught how to manage stress is we tune out with work, with TV, with movies, with social media. And this is the way that I usually, when I'm not conscious and mindful and present, this is my default here. This is my preset program, tune out, which creates what? A loss of time. A loss of time to be productive. A loss of time with our loved ones. A loss of time to go after our dreams, right? To do things that we said we always want to do, but we never have enough time to do because we're tuning out. The third way, and probably the most common way, is we numb out. With alcohol, with food, and with drugs, which unfortunately creates a loss of health. And if we don't get out of and recognize these patterns that are not even our patterns, this is really important to know. These are preset programs that we just picked up. Like somebody, again, like a computer, put a disk in our little minds at some point, and we picked up these patterns. Unfortunately, if we don't get out of this triangle, we experience burnout. Is this making sense? Put a 2 in the chat box if this is making sense. Okay, I'm seeing some 2s. Awesome. And again, there's no judgment here. All we're doing is we're just bringing to the surface maybe some things that maybe you're aware of or maybe you're not aware of. So what's your stress blueprint? We got to figure this out. We got to really identify and be honest with ourselves. What is it? How do you currently manage your stress? Do you lash out in road rage? Do you get in fights with family, friends, coworkers? Do you tune out? Do you overwork? Do you, indulge in TV and social media and internet? Do you, sleep too much? Do you numb out with food, with alcohol or drugs, with smoking? Maybe with shopping, retail therapy, right? That's a real thing. So just check in right now. Check in with yourself and be really honest. What is your default program? What's your stress blueprint? I'm just going to give you a moment just to kind of check in. So now let's talk about how stress shows up in our body. Stress shows up in our body as tension and pressure. So has anyone here ever experienced like a tight neck or a tight back? Or maybe like a tight jaw or a headache, a tension headache? That's stress. That's simply your body telling you that you're under stress. So we don't want to be like this balloon, completely deflated, Because again, some stress is good. That stress is what allows us to show up and perform. But if we're too stressed out, if we're not relieving the pressure valve throughout our days and our weeks and our years, what happens is we end up looking like this giant balloon over here, which is about to explode, right? That tension and pressure actually builds up physically in our bodies. So let's figure out where you guys currently store your stress, because this is part of that stress blueprint that I'm going to share with you guys to get connected to. Who here stores stress in their upper back and neck? This is a common one, very common. So this probably shows up as tight shoulders, maybe a tight neck, right? How about lower back? Anyone here have lower back? Kind of maybe feels like somebody's squeezing your spine, or maybe you have lower back problems. Stomach, this is also a common one. For people that store stress in their stomach, maybe you have irritable bowel syndrome. Maybe you get a queasy, upset stomach frequently. This is stress. Face. Who here looks like this most of the time? Anyone? You get the wrinkles? So this, again, everyone experiences stress in different ways. But I want you to figure out right now, today, where do you store your stress physically? Check in. And we're gonna wrap this up. This is all gonna tie together in just a moment. And I want to share with you guys about emotions and energy in the body. So important to understand this. So throughout our days, we are constantly in, let's just call it a state, an emotional state. We're either in a high state or a low state. And that high state can be negative or it can be positive. And that low state can be negative or it can be positive. And we're constantly throughout our day, fluctuating between these different states. So oftentimes we get stuck in the stress zone, which is a high negative or a low negative emotional state. And so we oscillate from high negative to low negative, which might feel like fear or anxiety. And then, so that's a high negative state. So then our body shifts into a low negative state. We feel tired, hopeless, defeated, burnout, depressed. What we can become aware of is that we can actually train our mind and body to shift out of a high negative and a high or a low negative to a high positive and a low positive. So a high positive is what I call the high performance zone. This is when we're feeling confident, we are experiencing joy, we're connected, we're engaged, we're showing up as our best selves, to then shift to a low positive, which is relaxed, mellow, peaceful, tranquil. This is the recovery zone. So if we can learn to be more mindful of, number one, becoming aware when we're in a stress zone, and then use a tool to get out of that stress zone and shift over into a high positive or a low positive state, we're going to be more effective. We're going to be more relaxed. And here's the truth. You don't always want to be in a high positive state. Being in a high positive state too frequently without shifting into that low positive state also can lead to burnout. You can shift from high positive to high negative. And a lot of high performers, people that own businesses, that handle a lot of things, often shift from a high positive to a high negative. And then eventually it takes a toll on their health. Is this making sense? Are you guys with me? I see Gary's yawning. Gary, we're going to get you up. I'm calling you out, buddy. Good. So we all have our emotional set point. So I want you to identify what your emotional set point is right now. Where do you spend most of your time? Where do you spend most of your time emotionally? Check in right now. Do you spend most of your time in a low level state of, exhaustion? Do you spend most of your time in a state of anxiety, of thinking about the future, thinking about things that may never even happen? Are you always in the future, or are you in the past? Are you feeling depressed and thinking about things that you should have done or could have done? Just check in. Again, No judgment. Don't judge yourself. Just literally check in and connect to this. Where do I spend most of my time emotionally? This is your emotional set point. And again, the first step to change is honesty, is becoming aware that yes, okay, like, yeah, I do spend a lot of my time in a high negative and a low negative state. And if that's you, it's totally fine. Just become aware of what's true for you right now. So take a moment, check in. The more honest you are with this, the more you're going to get out of it. So everyone put the ego aside and just check in. And maybe you're someone who is super confident and shifts from, high positive to low positive, and that's fantastic. And if that's the case, that's beautiful. But we can always improve. Even if, we can always improve. There's always room for improvement. So now we're going to go into our first breakout session. So I just threw a lot at you guys, and hopefully everyone is still here with me, engaged. Is this good stuff? Put a 1 if you're getting some good stuff from this in the chat box. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to have you identify your current stress blueprint. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to break out into groups of 5, and I'm going to have you answer these questions. Number 1, where do you store stress in your body? If you've been with me, you know now where you store stress in your body. Number 2, what is your emotional set point? And again, this is just where you spend most of the day and most of your time emotionally. Number 3, how do you currently manage your stress? The stress triangle. Do you lash out? Do you numb out? Do you zone out? Number 4, what's the biggest source of stress in your life right now? And number 5, what is one belief, one thought or habit that is creating stress that you're willing to change? So 5 questions, 5 people in a group, 5 minutes. Each person gets 1 minute. And just, again, if you don't want to share this, just pass in the group. It's totally fine. Some people are more introverted and don't feel comfortable sharing some of this stuff. That's totally fine. You can just pass. But, when you bring this stuff to the surface and you have the courage to actually share it, that's when you're able to do something about it. And you actually inspire other people to then be brave and want to take action and do something about it. So again, Olivia is going to break you guys out into groups of 5. We're going to take 5 minutes. We got 5 questions, and we're going to go in a circle and just answer these questions. Go around, each person share. And if you're not comfortable sharing or answering any of these questions and sharing, that's fine. You can just say pass. But I'm going to encourage you guys to be brave and be honest and just share with the group. Again, so 5 minutes, 5 questions. Let's go. So Olivia, if you can just create the
Is this a different breakout session?
I'm not really sure.
No
I
clue.
think people are coming back
Oh.
to it. But we didn't do the last question, so let's just do it now.
Oh.
One belief that we're willing to change.
Um,
I'm going to be more positive and worry less.
Not unusual. You all have the same thing. Oh, wow.
I have a hunch that most people some people didn't get to go. Is that correct? Or did everyone get a chance to share? Mostly, okay. We had a couple people in our group that didn't get to share. If you didn't get to share, that's totally fine. Just answer this for yourself. And if you want to connect with somebody that that you trust in this group, I want to encourage you to do that. Because honestly, when you're open and vulnerable and you're willing to take a look at some of this stuff, that's the first step to change. That's the first step to doing something about it, is actually looking in the mirror and seeing it for what it is. And oftentimes we stuff things down and we don't share, and we're not really honest with ourselves, to be honest. And what that creates is a lack of growth. And so it starts with being honest, number one, and then having the courage to be vulnerable and open up and maybe share some things, or even look in the mirror. Sometimes that's hard enough, just to be honest with ourselves about what's currently going on. But that's that first step to change. And until we have that, we're not able to really shift into and out of that state of chronic stress. So guys, how was that for everyone? How was that? Would anyone like to share? Did anyone have a big aha or insight, or would anyone like to share their experience about what they just realized, or how that went for everyone? Who wants to be brave?
Well, on our group, we all seem to have some agreement that the ever-changing days, that new information, new procedures, new processes is affecting all of us, and dealing with that on an ongoing basis is quite a challenge right now.
Okay, so you notice some similarities. So people are feeling very similar to yourself. Was that a surprise to you, Gary, or is that something you kind of had a sense of, like, yeah, well, this is how most people are feeling?
I've kind of had a sense of it, that many people are struggling with the everyday, hour by hour change, and what was decided today is oftentimes not what gets implemented the next day.
Awesome. Gary, thanks for sharing. Yeah, so one thing on that, really, again, that whole facts and stories. So as things continue to change day by day, week by week with what's going on in the world, it's really important to check and understand what is actually a fact and what is the story specifically around the fact. And I'm going to give you guys some really powerful questions to bring some of that to the surface, to make it even clearer in just a moment. Would anyone else like to share before we dive back into the training? Brittany, are you wanting to share?
I actually didn't get to share in our breakout. Well, I was in the middle of sharing, but.
Okay. So did you have any insights, or is there anything that you wanted to share now?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. I thought that you kind of had raised your hand there for a second.
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
No worries. So let's go ahead and dive right back into the training, because we still have quite a bit to go through, and I want to make sure that I respect everyone's time, including my own. So let's go ahead and get back into it here. Hopefully that was insightful and brought some things to think about. Really, again, here are the questions for those of you that didn't get a chance to share. I want to encourage you, share with your husband or your wife or someone that you trust, and just kind of have a conversation around some of this stuff. So it's really not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. And this is so true. There's, again, facts and stories. Stories dictate most of the stress, not the facts. So how do we become a master? The first thing is to check in rather than check out. So it's really about creating stress awareness. And what we just did actually is a stress awareness exercise. It's asking yourself questions that maybe you normally don't ask. It's bringing awareness to where you're storing stress in your bodies, what's creating the stress. That's called stress awareness. And that's the first step. Oftentimes, because it's kind of messy and it's kind of painful, what we tend to do is we tend to check out, and that keeps us in that stress triangle, right? But in order to pierce through and get out of that triangle, we need to start to check in. And that starts by answering honestly some of the questions that I just posed with you guys. The second step is to implement new strategies and tools to change the stories in the current stress blueprint. Again, your stress blueprint is like a preset program. It can change, but you have to have awareness around what your current blueprint is in order for that to happen. And then the third step is then making stress mastery a non-negotiable part of your everyday life. And I'm going to give you guys some very tangible, very practical tools in just a moment on how to just do just that. And again, focus equals feeling. Where attention goes, energy flows. So in our group, someone shared that they, COVID, with all the changes and all the negative things that are happening because of COVID, they tend to focus on all the negative of COVID. So if you're focusing on all the negative, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel negative. You're going to feel, if you're focusing on what's out of your control, how are you going to feel? Out of control. So really important to start to direct our focus to how we want to feel. And it's really important to understand that how we feel dictates what? Our actions, which dictate what? Our results. So this is really important to start to ask these 4 questions. You're going to want to write these down. These are really important questions to ask, especially right now. So I hope everyone has their pen and paper out. Number 1, am I focusing on what I want or what I don't want? Am I focusing on what I want or what I don't want? Number 2, am I focusing on what I have or what I don't have? Am I focusing on what I have or what I don't have? Number 3, am I focusing on, this is a big one, especially right now, what's in my control or what's out of my control? Number 4, am I focusing on the past, the present, or the future? These 4 questions are extremely powerful. Why are they powerful? Well, remember, what we focus on, we feel. So if we're focusing on what we don't want, what we don't have, what's out of our control, in either the past or the future, how do you think we're going to feel? How are we going to feel? Like shit. That's how we're going to feel. Excuse my language, but that's how we're going to feel. We're not going to feel good. We're going to feel out of control. We're going to feel negative. We're going to feel jealous. We're going to feel anxious. So next time you start to experience stress, which will probably be maybe even after this workshop, hopefully not, maybe tomorrow or this weekend, I want you to ask yourself these 4 questions. Remember these questions. Check in and ask, what am I focusing on? What am I focusing on? And if you answer these questions, you're gonna know. It's gonna tell you what you're focusing on. Is this making sense? Are you guys with me? Raise your hand if you're with me. Is this good stuff? Okay, awesome. So this is an amazing prayer, and whether you're religious or not doesn't matter. You can substitute God for universe or nature or whatever you believe in. It's called the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's a beautiful prayer or incantation, but this is really powerful. When we can begin to focus on what's in our control versus what's out of our control, it's game-changing for how we feel. That gives us our power back. When we're constantly focusing on things, external things that we cannot control, or if we don't have the wisdom to know what's in our control and what's out of our control, we experience so much more suffering, so much unnecessary turbulence that's created in our lives. So let's get into some really tangible methods for releasing stress. I call it the release method, and very simple to remember, all R's: recognize, rest, recharge, reset. So let's get ahead and dive into it. Number 1, recognize that you're feeling stress and allow yourself to feel it. Most people skip the second part. They may recognize they're feeling stress and they say, what can I do to get out of this feeling? I don't like how I feel. I'm going to go to the fridge. I'm going to eat a Twinkie, eat some cake, drink some whiskey. I don't like this feeling. Allow yourself to feel it. Really important. Feel the stress in your body. Identify then what's causing you stress. Where are you feeling it? Okay, I'm feeling it in my neck. I'm feeling it right now in my shoulders. Feel into it. Actually feel the sensation of stress in your body. And this can be uncomfortable. Maybe it's tightness, maybe it's throbbing, pulsing, maybe it's, whatever it is, just feel it. And then release it using one of the tools I'm about to share with you. Okay, but you must feel into the stress. Do not try to just skip over the feeling part because it doesn't work. It's not sustainable. Rest. Slow down. 10 deep belly breaths. And we're going to do a little exercise right now. I want everyone to put their left hand on their chest, their right hand on their belly. So sit up nice and tall in your chairs. And what we're just going to do a little exercise here. I want you to we're going to take 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And I want you just to become present to which hand you feel the breath in, either the hand on the chest or the hand on the stomach. Okay, so here we go. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Last one, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Now check in. Did the hand on your chest move more, or did the hand on your belly move more? For those of you that had the hand on your chest move more, you're in a chronic state of stress. Maybe you're not aware of it. I hate to break it to you. And it's okay, because I'm going to show you how to get out of that. Belly breath. Breathing into the stomach is so important. If you think about, for those of you that have children, if you look at your baby in the crib, where does a baby breathe from? Stomach. Babies are relaxed. They have no stress, right? So when we breathe from our chest, we're activating, I'm going to get a little technical here, the sympathetic nervous system. That is the fight or flight response. When somebody jumps out and scares you, chest breath. When you're relaxed, you're sitting on the beach, everything's good, belly breath. So if you slow down and learn to breathe into your stomach, also known as diaphragmatic breathing, it actually shifts you out of a stress state and into a rest state. How many people would like to shift out of a stress state and into a rest state? Yes, everyone, right? Belly breathing, so important. Take a nap. We are the most crazy, overworked society. If you go to any other country around the world, people actually rest. They give themselves space. They don't tell themselves a story that they don't have the time. They create the time to give themselves a break. Now, maybe it's not, an hour, maybe it's 10 minutes, but take a siesta. Give yourself a break throughout the day. Schedule it into your schedule. You'll be more productive because you'll feel more focused and rested when you do this. I promise you. Prioritize sleep. I mean, I could talk for hours about how important sleep is, but sleep is one of the most essential things for getting you out of a stress state. Most people view sleep as a weak habit of low performers. They view sleep as something that they do when they're dead. They view sleep as a waste of time. You snooze, you lose, right? Sleep is so critical because when we sleep and we create enough time to actually get the sleep that we need, that's when our bodies and minds restore. That's when so much happens during the night that we're not aware of. And I'm not going to get into it here because that's a whole nother presentation. But sleep is the key to restoring your mind and body so that you can show up and do it the next day. But you have to prioritize it and you have to protect it. And the interesting thing about sleep is the more you learn to shift out of a stress state and into a rest state, the better your sleep will be. The better your sleep is, the less stressed you are. They're very much interconnected. Is this making sense? Are you guys with me? Okay. Recharge, unplug from the matrix. I love this movie. It's an incredible movie. But we need to recharge throughout our day. So often we go from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, next thing, next thing. There's no break. It's just this constant onslaught of doing. And unless we take, it can be a minute transition between a meeting to a phone call, or you block out 5 minutes between your meetings just to take a couple deep belly breaths. This will make a game-changing difference in not only your productivity and your sleep, because you're releasing that pressure valve. Remember the pressure that builds up in our bodies. It's like that pressure builds up all day. And if we're not constantly releasing that pressure valve, at the end of the day, when we're driving home, that's when we're flipping the bird to the person that cut us off and going crazy, right? Because that pressure build up. So you have to create some pressure release valves throughout the day to stay recharged. So you could breathe, you can move, a little meditation, even just listening to some music, some upbeat music or some classical music or whatever you like. Music is very powerful state shifter. So listening to a song, in between your meetings or, whatever, so important to recharge throughout the day. Are you guys with me? Are you all going to start to recharge throughout the day? It's like plugging it in, you're plugging your battery back in, right? And it takes a conscious focus, but it makes a huge difference. Getting outside, so important. Get outside, breathe, get some sun on your skin, makes a world of difference. Reset. This is something I recently just did. I was out in California. It's, give yourself not only the transitions between the tasks and the meetings, but schedule some white space, some play, some fun with people you love, ideally something outside. Schedule time to play. We take ourselves so serious and we fill our schedules with so much that we don't have the space to play and to do things that we actually enjoy. And if you want to be in the driver's seat of your life, and if you actually want to bring more joy, more energy and presence to your life, you have to schedule it, because that's just the nature of the world we live in today. Monthly or quarterly, get out of your inbox. Go out, take a staycation, go on some sort of vacation, reset yourself. Give yourself the gift of actually using your vacation. There's so many people, I forget the statistic, that actually don't use their vacation. It was like mind-blowing how many people don't use their vacation time. But schedule time just to reset, to get out of your environment, to actually create the space to think about, what's working in your life and in your relationships and what's not. And then yearly, at least once a year, go on a vacation. This is incredible to just unplug completely from all the demands of work and life. So important. And so some of the most powerful stress releasing techniques, we already talked about the breath. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, because breathing is something that we always have. And it's the one thing that's connected to the autonomic nervous system that we have control over. Like, for instance, right now, you are not controlling whether your heart beats or not, right? You're not controlling whether your digestive system is digesting your lunch right now, right? You're not even consciously controlling your breath. But when you learn to breathe correctly, there's incredible techniques that you can do to consciously learn how to breathe that'll change your state tremendously. Moving your body, super easy and important. Meditation and mindfulness, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Perception shifting and neurosculpting, we already went through some of those exercises. Just literally asking yourself different questions, reframing how you're thinking about things, knowing the difference between a fact and a story, and laughter and gratitude. Some of the most powerful states can be created just from connecting to something that's funny and being grateful for the things that are in our life. So we talked about belly breathing. I'm not going to get into that again here. That's something that I want you guys to practice. Tonight, when you're lying in bed and you start to think about COVID or whatever, I want you just to take 10 deep breaths into your stomach and then check in with how you feel. Just try it. Experiment with manipulating your breath. So powerful. So powerful. Another amazing technique that the Navy SEALs actually use is called box breathing. And so I'm going to just guide you guys through this if you're open to it. It's very simple. And the Navy SEALs actually use this before they jump out of the helicopter, before they complete their missions. And it's a very simple breathing technique. And if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it should be good enough for us, right? So here we go. So how this works is you inhale for a count of 5. You hold for a count of 5. Then you exhale for a count of 5. And you hold for a count of 5. So it's inhale for 5. Hold for 5. Exhale for 5. Hold for 5. So we're going to do this together. You guys ready? So inhale for 5. Hold for 5. Exhale for 5. Hold for 5. We're going to do one more round. Inhale through the nose for a count of 5. Hold for 5. Exhale for 5. Hold for 5. So ideally, you want to do at least 5 to 10 rounds of this type of breathing. Very powerful breath work technique that what this does, again, it shifts you out of the stress state and into the rest state very effectively. Very simple technique. Again, if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it should be good enough for us. Very simple technique, very practical. So I wanted to share with you guys, obviously, we're already over an hour here. There's so many different breath techniques. I don't have time to share them all with you. So this is a little gift here. You can take a screenshot of this or a picture of this. If you text stress to this number, or you can just visit this URL. I have what I call advanced stress breath toolkit, which just goes through a number of different advanced breathing techniques that can allow you to access different states, whether you want more energy, whether you want to calm down. I mean, I'm sharing with you very basic ones here, but there's amazing exercises that you can learn to do. And again, just take a picture of that real quick if you want to get that. Movement. I mean, I think I was talking to Tiffany right before the workshop here. She said she goes to a boxing gym to relieve stress. Movement is one of the best ways to actually get stress out of your body. Doesn't matter what you do. It's just important to do it. Richard Branson, he's the founder of Virgin. He said, one of the main reasons I've been able to avoid burnout over the last 50 years in business is by making my health and wellness a priority. However busy I am and wherever I am, I make sure to start the day every day with exercise. Having a busy career doesn't mean that you can't live your life to the fullest, quite the opposite. And by scheduling time to focus on your health, you'll be more focused and effective in your work too. Now, the truth is, until you actually experience this, it won't make any sense. But scheduling movement as part of your everyday life, even if it's for 10 minutes, taking a walk before work or after work, can be game-changing for releasing that pressure valve. So I'm going to encourage everyone to put movement on your calendar, like today. Schedule it. If it's not in the calendar, it usually doesn't get done. Meditation, another very powerful tool. These are just some of the benefits of meditation. Increased attention and creativity, focus, increased immune system, increased confidence, self-acceptance, emotional intelligence. All of this happens by simply doing nothing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And what meditation does, you can think of meditation as a workout for your mind. It's kind of like brushing your teeth for your mind and your spirit. And it's something that I believe that everybody really needs to do because of the craziness. 100 years ago, we didn't have the type of stress and the type of technology that we have today. So we need to do things differently. And honestly, meditation is very simple. It doesn't have to be something that's crazy. And here are a couple different styles and methods. Again, we're not going to have the time to get through into these different techniques, but I just want to share them with you to explore if this resonates with you. Transcendental meditation is really powerful. It's a mantra-based meditation. MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. They have programs all across the country. Very amazing, powerful technique. The body scan technique is another really effective one that I've seen work wonders for people in some of my businesses. And I just want to recommend for those of you that are not currently meditating, download the Headspace app or the Waking Up app and just commit to 10 days of meditation. And for those of you that say, I don't have time for meditation, or I've tried meditation and I'm a bad meditator, I want you to just come at this again and just be open-minded and just commit to 10 minutes a day for the next 10 days. For those of you that currently have a mindfulness practice or meditation practice, I want to challenge you to go even deeper. And you can do that through breath work or just, again, exploring other techniques. But we can always access, there's always another level. And it starts by, again, making this simple commitment, creating the space to do it. And this really, meditation is what creates the space to identify the thinking that creates the suffering for us. Are you guys with me? Am I putting you to sleep here? Are you with me? No? We're good? Should I keep going? Okay, I see some head nods, thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. I'm giving you a little extra here, and we're a little over time, but I want to make sure that we get this. Laughter. Okay, this is huge. So right now, the world is, seems like it's falling apart. And oftentimes when there is, extreme circumstances, we take ourselves way too serious. We take what's going on in the world way too serious. So ask yourself the question, are you taking yourself too serious right now? Are you taking what you're doing too serious right now? And if the answer is yes, I want to challenge you to take a look at that and lighten up a little bit. How can you bring more joy and lightness into your life? How can you bring more laughter? Watching funny videos and movies is a great way. Surrounding yourself with funny people is great. But laughter is such a release. Like you see this woman in the slide, she's having an amazing release. It's a release of pressure. It activates endorphins in our mind. Like think of how good you felt after the last time you had a real laugh, like one of those soul laughs. And for those of you that's been a long time, I want to challenge you to really, explore that. If you hadn't had a soul laugh where you're like almost on the floor, like about to pee your pants, then, you need to bring a little bit more lightness and joy into your life. You're taking yourself too serious. Gratitude. The most powerful emotion outside of love is gratitude. We can't be afraid and grateful at the same time. You're going to want to write that down. We can't be afraid and grateful at the same time. Right now, there's so much doubt, fear, and negativity in the world coming from the news, coming from our neighbors, coming from our friends, our family. The truth is, right now you have an opportunity to be the light in the darkness. And that starts with connecting to gratitude. Because a lot of people are contracting in fear right now. A lot of people are numbing out, checking out, they're zoning out, they're lashing out. But right now, you can be that person that steps into a state of gratitude that then attracts like a magnet goodness into your life. And gratitude is the most powerful emotion outside of love. So let me ask you, what are you grateful for? Write it down. What are you grateful for right now? What can you be grateful for right now? How can you connect to gratitude even more? It's a great question. What can you do to connect to all the amazing things that you have in your life right now that you're probably not connected to? What can you do? Connect to it. Try it on. 3, 2, 1, sleep. Again, this is like really tactical stuff here. 3 hours before bed, no food. This will improve your deep sleep. 2 hours before bed, no work. 1 hour before bed, start your sleep ritual. Sleep ritual can be meditation, stretching, hot shower, prayer. Please do not watch the news. For those of you that are watching the news right before you go to sleep, that you're programming fear, doubt, and negativity in your mind. I'm not saying to stick your head under a rock and not be aware of what's happening in the world, but just don't do it before you go to bed. You know, the news is really fear-based. And so if you want to be afraid, and if you want to feel more out of control, if you want to feel more stress, watch the news. If you don't, then microdose the news. Are you guys with me? Is this making sense? Yes? Okay, cool. So you can create a 5-sense sanctuary. You know, again, here are some things. I'm not going to go through this, but here are some things you can do to create a more relaxed environment, because our environment affects us more than we realize. So a lot of us are stuck at home. You know, we're not able to get out, sheltering in place. Pictures of nature, you know, pink noise machine, you know, essential oils like lavender. I think you got a candle in your stress kit. That's lavender scent. You know, light that candle up. Drinking bone broth or drinking tea, you know, having a bath, or jumping in an ocean or a river or a lake, or getting a massage or a hug, or even buying a pet. These are all things that are going to upgrade your environment to be less stressful. So again, I challenge you to create a sanctuary in your home. And if the best place to do this is actually in your bedroom, because we spend 1/3 of our entire lives asleep. The bedroom is for 2 things: sleep and sex, nothing else. And make it a sanctuary. Make it the safe space in your home, so you can wake up and have the energy, the clarity, and the focus to deal with all the stuff that's coming at you right now. Another really powerful technique, and again, I'm throwing a lot at you. Some of this might stick, a lot of it won't. That's okay. But this is an amazing little, what I call perception shift. And this is probably one of the most powerful things when you actually get it, of all the things that I've shared. I just want you to look at this image for a second. And now connect with the fact that right now we're on a floating rock spinning thousands of miles an hour in a vast universe. Again, connect with the fact that you're on a rock right now. This tiny little small rock that's floating in the middle of space, traveling thousands of miles an hour. When you truly can connect with the reality of what we're experiencing, what it does is it allows you to get out of your own little world, that where all that stress, all that anxiety exists. So this is a practice. You can practice zooming out. I mean, there's amazing meditations. Again, we don't have time to do them today, but I could guide you guys in a meditation that kind of takes you out of the smallness that we all have, because we're trying to just do the best we can. But when you open up your awareness to the reality of what actually is happening right now, it puts all the things that seem stressful, it makes them all seem a little bit smaller. Is that resonating with anyone? Raise your hand if that resonates. Okay, cool. I see a couple hands. Because the truth is, worrying is like praying for what you don't want. Worrying is like praying for what you don't want. And right now, a lot of us are stuck, again, in fear, doubt, and worry. And what we focus on, we feel. So we're going to feel more fear, doubt, and worry. So I want to challenge you again to start to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want, what you have instead of what you don't have. Focus on what's in your control versus what's out of your control, and focus on what you can do now versus worrying about what you did or what may come. And do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. Do the best you can until you know better. And hopefully in this presentation, you guys now know a little bit better. And I hope that you take some of this information and actually apply it, because nothing is going to change unless you decide it's going to change. So it's just some key insights here as we wrap up. We all have a stress blueprints, how we deal with stress, where we store it in our bodies, how it affects us. We can release stress by identifying it, feeling it, and then releasing it using a tool, a breath exercise, movement, meditation, right? Creating a sanctuary. We can practice powerfully dealing with stress. This is a practice. It takes time, so you have to be patient. You know, if tomorrow you lose it and you fall back into that stress triangle, and all this, you forget all the stuff you now know. It's okay. Don't add more stress onto yourself by beating yourself up. One of the most common things in my life coaching practice I see people do is they make a mistake and then they beat themselves up about the mistake they made. And that adds this whole other layer, unnecessary layer of stress. Can anyone relate to that? Yeah? So the key to experiencing new results is new action. If you don't do anything different, nothing will change. So some steps: practice the breathing, schedule movement, take the 10-day meditation challenge, connect to gratitude, connect to laughter, use the perception shifting earth meditation where you zoom out and really connect to the fact of what's going on. Practice identifying the facts versus the stories. Check in rather than check out. Schedule mindful moments. Take energy breaks throughout the day to release the pressure valve, that emotional, mental tension and energy that gets stored up in our bodies and makes us tense and tight, right? Start to release that pressure valve. Practice the release method. Recognize, rest, recharge, or reset. It's the small, consistent things that we do every day, those little choices we make, that determine if we'll have a vibrant, energized, healthy, joyful life. Guys, that is all. So I'm going to open it up. You can take a picture of this. I'd love to stay in touch with you guys. I'm on social media, Devin Burke Wellness, at Sleep Science Academy. That's one of my companies that helps people that specifically have insomnia, chronic insomnia. But I'm going to open it up now to some questions, but hopefully this was powerful for you all. And I appreciate and want to honor your attention. I want to honor your commitment to being open to change, because change isn't easy. It takes an effort. And it definitely takes courage to do this type of work, but it's worth it. So Olivia, if you want to jump back on, we can do a quick Q&A. And if anyone has any questions about the exercises or has just some comments at all, I'm here for you guys. We'll take another, let's do another 5 minutes Q&A.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can raise your hand, which should be at the bottom, and I can unmute you, or you could.
I'll just go. So Devin, you seem to have some experience about sleeping or getting to sleep. And I think one of the challenges is that as people put their head down, their minds begin to race. Do you have any suggestions on how to help people calm their mind, even though they've created a sanctuary in their bedroom?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question, Gary. I get this question often. And so I would recommend what I call a bed buffer. A bed buffer is the time between your day and your night. So oftentimes what we do is we take our day into our night. And that's where the racing mind comes. You're thinking about all the things that you did or didn't do throughout the day and all the things that you have to do, which creates that racing kind of thoughts. If you can create the space between your day and you actually close out your day, so have a ritual around closing your day out, writing down the things that you did well that day, writing down the things that you still need to do, literally physically close out your day in some way, and then transition into the night and have some sort of transition. So it could be a walk, it could be some stretching, it could be a hot shower, but something that transitions from your day to your night. I call that a bed buffer. And that creating that space is going to allow your mind to actually start to calm down. Because all day we're just thinking, going. If we don't create that space, we carry that right into the night. And that's when people lay their head on the pillow, they think their mind's like a light switch, and it's not. It needs space to simmer down. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Is that helpful? Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions? Let me ask you guys a question. What was the most powerful thing or one action that you're going to take as a result of now knowing what you know about stress? Your stress blueprint, the different techniques? Does anyone want to?
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Was going to say, I think for me, it was interesting to realize how much of a high negative, high positive energy I have, and kind of staying in that excited state for maybe too long.
Okay, awesome. And as a result of that awareness, is there anything that you're going to do differently to shift out of the, the high, stay out of the high zone, shift into the low positive versus, stay up top there that might burn you out?
I think breaks, like you
Breaks?
said, taking breaks during the day. I focus on a lot of that at night and not as much during the workday.
Okay.
Especially with working from home.
Yeah, it's very easy, especially right now, because of the nature of, new environments. If you're not used to working from home, people are actually working even more because it's kind of like this new environment, and it can be a little bit more challenging, but that would be game changing for you. Take daily transitions between your meetings or your tasks. It makes a world of difference. And Gary, for you as well, doing those transitions throughout the day will actually allow your mind to kind of like simmer down. You close out some of the browsers, so at night you don't have so many browsers open. That'll actually help you sleep as well. Anyone else want to share an insight, something that they learned, something that they're going to do differently based off of what you now know?
I have a quick question for you, actually, related to middle of the night waking up, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the bewitching hour, 3 o'clock, and I try to numb out a little bit and not think about things, but I find that very, very hard. And I'm not always waking up to go to the bathroom. I'm waking up from a dream. I'm thinking about something that excites me to the point where I actually become conscious again.
Yeah, great question. So there's a thing that I teach, technique. It's called stimulus control. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're in bed for longer than 15 minutes and you're still awake, actually removing yourself from the bed, because you don't want to create an anchor that your bed equals stress. So you would, after 15 minutes, if you're not able to fall back asleep, then you want to remove yourself from the bedroom and go do something boring or relaxing. Some of the techniques that I shared on this training, like a breathing technique or a meditation technique, something that's just going to allow you to release some of the stress. And then only when you are sleepy do you get back into bed. So that's called stimulus control. It's a very effective technique for people that have what we call maintenance insomnia, which is trouble staying asleep. Is that helpful, Paul?
Yes, yeah. It seems counterintuitive to actually wake yourself up more, but
it does. You know what's really interesting? So my other business, Sleep Science Academy, is solely on helping people with insomnia, and we're very effective with our program. And most of what we teach in that program is paradoxical and counterintuitive. And I'll just give you another example. People think that if they're not getting enough sleep, they should stay in bed longer. That actually makes your sleep worse. But there's a number of other things that people do that they think is going to help them sleep better. That's actually counterintuitive, and there's a lot of paradox in sleep. So sleep is a tricky one, because it's the one thing that the more you try to force and control, the worse you sleep. Everything else in life, the more you try, usually the better results you get. Sleep's the one thing that the more you try to force or control it, actually the worse your sleep becomes. So it's kind of frustrating. But yeah, if you want to have a conversation around that, just contact me. I can be more than happy to share more.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any last burning questions or ahas, or just, anyone want to commit to something that, publicly in front of all these people, like, hey, I'm going to start my meditation practice. Everyone here is going to hold you accountable. I heard somebody.
It's me talking in the background.
It was Tiffany committing to something.
I'll keep meditating.
Okay.
More time.
Yeah, it takes practice. Meditation is a beautiful practice. It can be frustrating, and but it's such a powerful way of becoming resilient to stress. And it's so simple. It just takes commitment. to really see the value in it. But it's a game changer. Well, listen, if no one else has any more questions, it's 8:30 over here. So I appreciate you guys. Yeah, it's time for me to transition from my day. I want to thank you again so much for your time and your attention. I really, truly hope that you take some of this information and take action on it. Because again, this is just information unless you do something about it. And right now, your families need you, your spouses need you, your kids need you, your companies need you guys to really show up and be that person, set a new example for like how to show up. And like, I want to challenge everyone to really take that on very seriously, because especially right now, God, we need it. We need more people to really be in control of what's going on up here, and the energy that they're bringing into the spaces, whether it's work or family, really important. So I hope you guys don't just, brush this aside. I really hope you take some of this information and apply it. And I'd love to hear from you. So email me, info@devinburke.com. Let me know. I love to hear from participants here that, hey, this thing I committed to, and I'd love to hear how it's working for you. And if you have any other questions, just reach out.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate that. And I know everyone that was on the call today did as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I'm going to go transition and start my bed buffer. So take care, and yeah, see you soon.
Thanks. And then just a reminder to everyone a part of IREM, we are going to do a couple of networking sessions. So